Hi, everybody. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci, and you're watching NLL Lacrosse Talk. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google, Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now joining us, of course, our co-host Gary Groob and our very special guest, Pat McCready. Pat, how you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me, fellas.
It's totally our pleasure, and we had a couple of technical difficulties. We apologize for that. We always like our equipment to work better, but sometimes it doesn't like us.
Yeah, sometimes you find holes in that for sure.
Absolutely. So thank you for being patient. The only hole we're looking for is the 5-hole. No. Okay. So here it is. Your life is lacrosse. How did you begin your life in lacrosse?
Well, it was funny. I had a Hall of Fame dad who was a lacrosse guy, and he was a goalie. And as a result of watching all those lacrosse games, my mom never wanted any of us to play.
Right.
So I was the baby. I was the last one of 4. And I found a stick in the basement and started throwing the ball around on the stairs. And he was coaching junior teams at the time. So he saw that. And then one day he came home and said, "Hey, I'm coaching another team this year." And it happened to be my age group. So I started going out. But then my mom made me a deal that I had to play baseball every other summer. So I played one summer of lacrosse and then the next summer of baseball. So it was a slow start, but I got in there.
How long did that last?
Up until Bantam. So that would have been up here, would have been like 13 and 14.
And how many years was that?
That was probably going about 6 seasons. So
wow.
Of course, of 6 years. Yeah.
Wow. Your mom had a real good grip on you then.
Oh, yeah, she did. And she was a big baseball player. So it was a compromise. But it didn't. I don't. Well, I mean, it hurt me a little bit, I guess. And as far as getting some hands, maybe. But we just kept going, and then kind of went lacrosse and then hockey. How we, big to be a 2-sport athlete. So it was good. Always missed, the lacrosse after hockey to come back, and just kind of grew the love for lacrosse, and here we are.
What's the main reason that's kept you in the game?
You know what? I think it's really a game that's just, there's lots of action, and there's a good physical component to it. And just exciting. It's exciting to be around. It's a great game, and they do refer to it as kind of the creator's game, and it just feels good to be around the game. And for people who are around the game, they know what I'm talking about.
Well, Gary's got the coals working, and I think he's got the spit going. Are you ready to roast a little?
Oh yeah, here we go.
Here we go. Now, I'm in the same school of having a famous father. Mine was in music and coming up trying to do music, and he cast a huge shadow. Now, it did open some doors, but it was just an amazing thing to try and work under him. Having a dad that was as famous as yours, a Hall of Famer, coach, was it difficult to try and move forward in lacrosse because of that?
I don't know. I think at a pretty young age, I mean, I knew kind of how good he was, and then I'd hear stories kind of when I was around the rink, from people that played with him. And I don't think I ever tried to kind of compete with that. Like, he was a goalie, and he probably outpointed me and probably had more penalty minutes than me too. Like, he was kind of a phenom. And I remember growing up, I didn't have a ball, so I went into his drawer one night and took a ball out with some writing on it. Went to the school and I ended up roofing it. And he made me go back up on the roof to get it. And I told him what I did, and I looked down at the ball, and it was 14 assists in one game. And like I said, he was a goalie, so that was probably more points than I had for some seasons, So it was pretty incredible.
That's amazing. But the era that he came from was the heyday of lacrosse. I love watching some of the old films of that particular style of lacrosse too. And
Give us for the listeners who may not know. Give us a dateline, the years that we're talking about.
That would have been like the late like 60s, mid 60s to 70s.
Now your comment makes sense, Gary.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Just with all of those players, and I still see a lot of those guys up in Peterborough, and I'm talking about those days and the wooden floors and all the other things to go with it. But the style of play too, of the end to end, there wasn't the transition guy, there wasn't the face-off guy. Everybody played both sides of the ball. That's kind of the style that you came up in, isn't it, Pat?
100%. That was there was a flow to the game, and like they call it the fastest game on 2 feet for a reason. There wasn't people, running to center and then dumping a ball off and slow changing to the bench. It was like run and gun. And yeah, I grew up in that style, played 2A lacrosse, probably most of junior. And then even when we got into the NLL, like I was playing up on forward with John Grant Jr., Paul Gate was my line mate. Like, and again, there was roles within roles. So yeah, if you didn't have the best hands, you're the guy setting the picks.
Must have been tough carrying those two guys.
Oh yeah, for sure. I remember after I think my third or fourth game with Paul Gate, he called me the kid back then. It was my second year in the league after Charlotte. I had this play where I basically set a high seal for him, and he'd either shoot off the screen or he'd run around and go right down the middle. And then I remember, I think the fourth game, I said, "Hey, Paul." He's like, "Yeah." I go, "Would you mind if I pass you the ball maybe first before I kind of set the play for you?" And he goes, "Well, sure, kid, but why?" I go, "Well, Paulie, like, I could get an assist, like, kind of in a contract year here, right?" So he had the ball down the corner. He looked at me, gave me the nod, and I kind of gave him like, "Hey, pass me the ball." And you see him like a little exasperated, going, "Oh." So he throws me the ball. I set the play for him. He runs around, scores, like perfect. And as I'm running the bench, he hits me on the butt and says, "Hey, nice assist, kid." So, but it was great, and it was 2A lacrosse, and like, it had other dimensions because now, like, there's not just, typically your D guys banging guys around, like you're up on O, so you can bang guys around up there, setting picks and stuff too. So yeah, it was a fun game. And then I think when Hamilton came in the league, they ran the OD, kind of the first team to do it, and then kind of everybody followed suit after that.
Right. Let's talk about the Junior A stuff over in St. Catharines. Let's first off talk about the team, because that program is storied. There are so many players from that program now in the NLL, in the past from the NLL. It's truly amazing how great it is for a small city like St. Catharines.
Yeah, they've been around like over 150 years. I think they just got named that they're going to host the Minto in 2. But I think what they do very well is they always have people giving back. So any of the former players, like everybody's always coming back and coaching, whether it's minor all the way up through junior. And you kind of do have a system in place, and then the juniors talk to the minors and kind of get here's what we're going to be running, so you guys should run the same. And I think that's a big part, is having the coaching through the system. And then you see other programs historically, like Peterborough, Whitby, and Orangeville, kind of the same thing.
Yeah, it seems to be the recipe for how to, first off, draw in the younger kids into the program, and 2, to build it with esteem, I would say.
Yeah, and like much like Hockey Canada has their pyramids where for development, I kind of think roughly lacrosse has that as well in certain centers. And I think there's been a lot of talk of doing that nationally or provincially, just getting some like a skill booklet or a breakdown of time versus skill and systems, and try to implement that in lacrosse. And I think if you're doing that and have a true plan, then the game's growing and everybody's learning really well.
Lacrosse, more than any other sport's a year-round game. I know hockey is, but I find lacrosse is even more.
Is more
year-round, a year-round game.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that's kind of what separates some of these guys that are playing now too. You know, for a kid coming in who just plays junior and then tries to step in and play, like you have to be truly exceptional because, you know, when you're playing pro and then in summertime and then, you know, even the PLL and stuff, when you're doing all those things, for a kid out of junior to come in and compete against a grown man who's playing year round, it's a pretty tough chore. But obviously, you see the kids that are able to do it. Kudos to them.
Yeah, I said that because the pyramid system will work better with the in the long run, not in the short run. In the long run, will work better in lacrosse simply because you have so many players changing teammates. So
That's
whatever
right,
you know, and what it does is it helps create a base for all the players to play one system. It doesn't matter where they go.
yeah, that's right. And then again, like, you know, like if you watch the junior games or even watch some of the NLL teams, I've had a lot of NLL games right now, and you're seeing some teams that are buying into, you know, being content to shoot from the outside, and you're seeing other teams really work, you know, like, you know, getting to that dirty area of the goal, and kind of when it comes down to it, like I think in the playoffs you see kind of the different systems and what's being successful right now. So
Now you played underneath your dad coaching too, right?
yeah, I did. Yeah, in junior he was partnered with Paul Day. I played 3 years there, and then I was under him in Rochester early on, and then he was jumped in with as a goalie coach just before he passed away in 07, 08.
Right. Now we go from junior and we start going towards, I guess it's the mill league at that time, and you wind up going into Charlotte. I think you were headed towards Buffalo, but Charlotte had a spot for you. Is that correct?
Yeah. So Marty Cooper, who was my field lacrosse coach at Brock, I played there just one season, and he actually invited me out. And in junior, I was more of a defensive, you know, kind of pick setter guy. But I had some decent size. So they invited me out to the Buffalo Bandits camp, and nobody really had kind of thoughts on me cracking the lineup there. But when you get out and do those great players, it almost makes the game easy to play. And if you have a role and you know your role, it kind of makes the game work. And just went out there, had a great camp, and then it came down to me and Mike Hazen, and they took Mike, and they had a rule back then too in the mill where you had to take so many Canadian-born players, so many American-born players. Right. So there are ratios on each team. So I was the odd man left out, and they offered me a spot down in North Carolina. So went back, and I was in a kind of a boring stats class. I'd already finished college and was working on a university degree, and I said, you know what, I'm taking the shot, and called on the payphone because they didn't have cell phones back then, and so I'm coming down. So jumped on a plane to Charlotte and started my NLL career.
You had a good first season there. 14 goals, 11 assists. That's pretty good numbers for a rookie, especially in that era again, right? Trying to break in.
Yeah, and again, kind of like we played two-way there, but they kind of didn't see me as a power play guy, but I snuck on like the second unit and kind of did my thing, and had some goals drop, and it was fun. It was probably a great center to have a team being kind of in that North Carolina, Raleigh-Durham, Charlotte area, all the universities and everything. And our first game, we had 5,000 fans in a 10,000 seat arena where the Charlotte Checkers played. But then we probably didn't have the product on the floor. We might still be the only winless team. We were 0-10 that year. And,
right.
Right. It was a great place to play and great place to live. Charlotte's a great city, and I'd like to see maybe a team get back there someday. That'd be great.
Me as a collector of jerseys, you don't happen to have one rolling around of those Cobra jerseys, do you?
Yeah, I've got I sure do. I've got my Charlotte Cobra jersey for sure. Darius Kilgore, who's probably one of my favorite players growing up, offered to trade that after our game, and I was tempted, but I held on to it, so I still have it.
Oh yeah, that's a collector's item. You don't want to get rid of that. That's like finding an Ontario Raiders. There's just none of them around.
That's right. Yeah, there's probably like 20 of those around in existence, and I don't know.
And you got one of them. Oh, yeah, hold on to that guy. Yeah, I just found an Arizona Sting jersey, so I was pretty proud about that one. So
yeah, that's a good point too.
Let's move on from there. You leave after 1 year of Charlotte. You wind up in Rochester, where you spend a bunch of years. Your first year, you guys win the championship. Let's talk about jumping onto that team, those players, and the shall we say just the ambiance of the city and the team itself, and moving forward there.
Yeah, so I go back and like I said, I get kind of partnered with Paul Gate on the left side. So like again, it's like seeing a superhero or like like one of your idols.
Sure.
And, yeah, it was just awesome to be a part of. And then like we had Steve Dietrich in net, who was at that time probably the best goalie, one of the best goalies in the league. And then Dewey Jacobs, who probably nobody really talks about as much as they should. He was fantastic. And then just kind of like a mix of kind of Canadian American guys, and we all kind of came together. Reggie Thorpe, like just really good guys. Matty Ryder, Hollenbach, Timmy Sudan, the American guys. Like Randy Mearns was in and around there. Like it was just it was a neat makeup of a team and fun to win with. Like just an amazing group of guys.
Now, what I find with that city is that the city itself just embraces that team, and your bond with the fans must have been spectacular, especially during championship years.
Yeah, and it was like kind of a tighter, more intimate arena, and fans. You basically know a lot of the fans, and everybody's pumped. It was a great place. It was loud, and then we end up going into Buffalo and winning it. The semi at that time too. I don't know if you guys know this, but the team with the biggest attendance actually hosted the finals. So, or hosted the playoff game. So we played Philly before the Buffalo game went off, and we had so many calls against us. It was unbelievable. I remember Chugger just stood on his head, and Paul Gate went off. So when we won that, Buffalo had the next semifinal game, and they ended up winning. So they got to host, and then we went in there, and it was a packed house too. Like it was a sellout, and we went in there and won that game. So it's pretty special.
And you have a great story of the busted hand story. You busted your hand. I think it was in the semis, and really couldn't grab a stick, but was playing to set picks. And of course, Paul Gate.
It was the final, and Neil Doddridge went to shoot, and we were using titanium shafts at the time that didn't really have a breaking point.
Mm-hmm.
So the shaft resonated and broke my metacarpal, my third metacarpal, the middle one.
Mm-hmm.
And I go to the bench, and my fingers like in another area code, and because we could only dress 15 runners as well. Paul Day, who was coaching at the time, he's like, "Can you play?" And I'm like, "Paulie, like, look at my finger," and it was like pointing, towards the dressing rooms. So he said, "Wrap them up." So I got wrapped up, and then Paul goes, "Hey kid, can you catch?" I'm like, "Paulie, like I got one hand here, man." And then on the whistle, championship game, he thinks it's funny. He throws the ball across the rink at me, and kind of I'm able to catch it one hand, and I run it back to him. I'm like, "Come on, Paulie, seriously, man, like, concentrate here, man." He loved it. But finished the game off, and then had to leave after to go get go get X-rays.
Right. with a championship ring to be fitted, right?
The best. It was the best, and then tried to make up for it in the other ones where I was healthy at the end of the night. So it was good.
Now you spent 5 years in Rochester, and then due to work, and at that time you were becoming a Niagara Regional Co-op. you wanted to be a little bit closer, and you requested a trade and got it over to Buffalo. Let's talk about going into Buffalo and joining that story program.
Yeah, that's kind of. I don't know if I really requested a trade or not, but I was kind of caught up in a blockbuster at the time.
Mhm.
I might have been a throw in on that one, but it was like Steve Dietrich, myself, and then maybe Casey Powell was involved, and then Darcy Sweet, Sean Williams, and somebody. I think it was like Rusty Kruger. Like it was like an 8-player deal. That it was like 4 players for 4 players, and I went over there, and my dad was the first head coach in Buffalo, and I basically hung around the team as almost like a ball boy for the team.
Mm-hmm.
And to get back to Buffalo, that was like another childhood dream of mine, and right over the border, and Buffalo was like basically my second home. It's I love it. I still love it to this day. Go over as much as I can.
Now, if anybody's looking at to see some of Pat's games on my YouTube page at All Lacrosse All the Time, I have a number of retro Bandits and Rochester games up, and I do believe I have a 2010 Rock game up there as well. So you can catch plenty of Patty playing in these games. I got one specific of 2002, just after the trade, and there you are in the Bandits uniform. So it was a pretty good game.
Yeah, and like I don't, again, like probably one of the best arenas to play in, like still to this day, and the fans are like it's almost like a cult following, like just unbelievable place. And I wish more cities kind of had that vibe. I think the closest one maybe when I played was Philly, that kind of had that same kind of atmosphere.
Yeah, I remember the old arenas going to the Memorial Odd and going to the Spectrum, and where the fans were on top of you, the players, and it was insane. Those are 2 of the most insane arenas I'd ever been in. But the KeyBank Center, or HSBC, or Marine Midland, or whatever we were calling it this week, with 19,000 screaming Bandits fans in there, is unbelievable. The energy that's in that building.
Yeah, and we had some really good teams over the years I was there, and probably should have won a little more than we did. But just my time there was awesome. Like just fantastic. So can't say enough.
I'm thinking that if they had the system implemented that they have now, you probably have a few more rings on your fingers. If they had a best 2 out of 3 as opposed to a one and done, I think some of the teams that you were on were just incredible.
Yeah, I think I was in. I can't remember, but I think I was like maybe in like 8 finals and only came out with 3. And some of those we probably should have won, and then some of the ones we did win, maybe we shouldn't have won. So those one game finals, like you get a hot goalie, or somebody goes through the crease and hits your goalie, it can really change kind of the momentum of everything.
Right, sure. Now, you win another championship with Buffalo in 2008 in what I call probably the best team that Buffalo ever put together. That was just an incredible, well-rounded team altogether. Let's talk about that season and just how special it was, because it had been a few years since Buffalo had won.
Yeah, it was like 15 until last year, right? So, we had a lot of cracks at it. And to be the devil's advocate, we may have had better teams than that year.
Yeah.
We just kind of everything just fell into place, and like to win, like you got to be, there's a little luck involved. And I remember like our record wasn't as great or anything, but we kind of just lucked out with like other teams in the other division, and then kind of getting the home game all the way through, and we ended up hosting it. It was a real special year. My dad had passed away the year before, and Darius Kilgore's dad too. So there was more on the line that year, and it was just amazing to kind of be able to do it and kind of host it at home, and then obviously raise the cup at home. So so much fun, and just to be kind of have a banner up there with the other 3 that they had before that, it was pretty neat to see.
Right. Talk about having Darius as a coach. Darius as a player was intense. Was he that as a coach as well?
Yeah, he brought it every night. Like there was no there was no nights off with him, and he was always giving it to you. Like, he was always like, right on that verge. I remember one day, I think I was assistant captain on that team, and he came in the day of and wanted to change. We were playing like a high pressure defense, which we kind of put in at that time, and teams they play variations of it still. But he changed it so that he wanted a low man to pressure a guy in the corner and basically let him beat the person to the crease. And to kind of put that in the day of the game, a lot of the guys were like, "Oh, geez," and then they came to me, approached me, and they said, "Hey, like, you got to talk to Darius." So I was like, "Oh God!" And I went up to the assistant coach at the time. I won't say who that was. And I'm like, "Hey, man, like, guys aren't feeling that comfortable. Like, could you maybe talk to Darius?" And coach said, he goes, "Patty," he goes, "I'm not talking to Darius." He goes, "If you want to talk to him, talk to him." So I went in and talked to him, and he ripped me, like, just ripped me. So, but yeah, that's the price of leadership. Sometimes you got to do
Yeah.
things that aren't real great, and we didn't play the defense, and kind of, I don't think we ever played it, but I took it on the chin for that one.
Right. Now you leave Buffalo after 2009, and you come to the newly ownered Jamie Dawick Toronto Rock, and they had come out of a couple of lean years, and Dawick was trying to bring back the team that was the championship years, and you were one of the pieces that came in, as well as having Colin Doyle come back, having Terry Sanderson, Troy Cordingley as coaches. Let's talk about the revitalization of the Toronto Rock, shall we say, in 2010 with you coming in.
Yeah, Jamie Dawick, like, you can't say enough about that guy. He's the kind of owner that you need in the NLL today. Guys like him, and Stiers, and Joe Tsai, and those guys, like, they're big ambassadors for the sport. So Jamie was awesome. Like, kind of put his heart and soul into it, and like even what they're doing with the development now with the Rockstars facility and the junior programs that they're running, they're doing it the right way. So we go there. Troy and Terry kind of bring the pieces and guys that they like back with them. Like, we signed a lot of veteran guys on the defensive end, like Cam Woods, Phil Sanderson. A lot of really, really good pieces, and a lot of good young guys. And have like LeBlanc come in at the time, and Billings. So they were two phenoms at the time. And then Blaine Manning and Doyle. So we had a great run, and we had a great team. And unfortunately, and again, it comes down to a certain type of fate or luck, but the Washington Stealth hosted the final that year.
Yep, that's right.
And I remember suggesting, like, hey, maybe we should have an extra travel day. And we flew from Toronto to Vancouver and then bus down. And I think it was like a 14-hour trip. And not saying anything or excuses or anything, and then you had the time change, and then we were doing real well. And then kind of, it was interesting too, in that game, we pulled the goalie near the end of the one quarter.
Yeah, the third, and that's where it changed. It changed the whole outcome of the game.
Yeah, and actually the game I was at the other night, Toronto got burned by it again, but
that's right.
Little things, right? Little things that happen. And I remember that travel day that really stood out. Like, everybody, and then in the fourth quarter, I think we kind of lost our legs, and that was that. And then, but they went on to win it the next year, so it was nice to see that group win it.
Yeah. Now you move over back to Rochester the following year, and you're wearing the C now. And in 2012, you win the Cup with your nephew Joel.
Well, yeah, I kind of funny story again, but I go back in 2011. I'm a free agent, and Toronto doesn't. We kind of was up in the air, and then Kurt Stiers kind of approached me, and my nephew was there, so I figured I knew I was kind of near the end. That was my 16th and 17th years.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured, I love my nephew. He's like a little brother to me. So I couldn't pass up that opportunity. So I went and played with him in 2011. But then he got hired as a firefighter.
Right.
And missed the 2012 year. And then that was the year that I was the captain. And yeah, we kind of strung some wins together when it counted, and then took it down again at home. Like kind of everything just kind of fell into place, and we won it at home. So then took the cup and handed it off, and then walked off, and that was it. And it was one of the best ways to end the story for me. It was awesome.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What a storied NLL career, though, and the teams and the players and the characters that you were able to play with and develop. Were there any favorites? I'm sure there was a handful of them, but any that stood out to you as guys that you just love to play with?
Yeah, like you obviously you kind of love everybody when you're playing with them and stuff, and I think that's what people don't understand. Like, you have kind of friends built in any city now, kind of across, the country or even across in the States. But yeah, like there was certain guys, like I remember Kyle Laverty was a guy that I played with a long time, and he was a real character guy and, and fun. And and then obviously my roommate for 10 years, it was Steve Dietrich. So he was a lot of fun for that time. And then just, seeing some great players like John Tavares and Paul Gade, and I was a kid for a lot of those times, and just coming in and getting to play with these legends,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just the dressing room. That's what you really miss. You miss just all the fun, and everybody's there working hard, and that's you miss everybody, and you share stories, and those years you win the championships, like you're bonded forever with that team, those guys,
Yeah. Now you played it year round because you also did summer ball. You did MSL. You did WLA. You won a Man Cup with the Brampton Excelsiors in 1998, and more or less the heyday of the Excelsiors, or coming into the heyday of the Excelsiors. Let's talk about summer ball and the difference, because guys that you were teammates with are now your opponents, and guys that you were opponents are your teammates, and just that whole mishmash of the specialty that lacrosse has that most other sports don't.
Yeah, and you kind of, I don't know, I was a guy that could kind of put that aside pretty quickly. Like, even if you were my buddy, like I was, maybe I'd hit you even harder just to kind of have the next time I saw you, right? I remember Pat Madalena got traded, but that was the NLL, but he got traded to New York, and the goalie threw him a Sui pass at center, and I laid him out, and I remember he was so upset, for a week he didn't talk to me. But you're playing, and if you're not in the same jersey, you're not my buddy, and
yeah,
kind of how it has to be. And then summertime, same thing. Once you're on the same jersey, you're seeing that color, right? And you don't really worry about friendships until after the game, and hopefully guys don't hold grudges, and you have a drink after the game, and renew the friendship then, right?
Bragging rights matter.
It does. Oh yeah.
You add to your mantelpiece by winning a President's Cup with the Kitchener-Waterloo Kodiaks. Let's talk about that, and Senior B as well. And I know people look at it as A and B, but my God, the talent in the Senior B level is easily as good as Senior A.
Yeah, and that time they were using the 4x4 nets too. So you had guys like Chugger playing, and Blaze Dow, and all these goalies. So trying to find a hole on a 4x4 net, it wasn't. But Chugger's mom had passed away, and he asked me to come play for him that year, for kind of having a chance to win it, kind of for her. So that's how I kind of got up to Kitchener and played that year, and it was hosted up in Owen Sound. Yeah, and it was a blast, and it was a great year. But my one regret was St. Catharines had a senior A team, which I was also playing for.
Yeah.
And we had Peterborough 3-2, I think, and there was a power outage in St. Catharines, so we couldn't play that game, and then it was rescheduled, and then that was when the President's Cup was going, and I missed the St. Catharines game, so that would have got to the Ontario final that year. So it was I was kind of upset about that, but yeah, it was a good experience, the Senior B League for sure.
Right. You had quite the extent over in MSL too, because you had Six Nations, Peterborough, St. Catharines, Brooklyn, Brampton. You had a bunch of places, right?
Aquasauce. Yeah, I was a case in the summertime. Due to the work that I was doing, I had to spend a lot of my holiday time kind of during the winter.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to find somebody in the summertime that didn't mind if you missed, a lot of games and stuff. So I kind of bounced around there a little bit. But yeah, it was great. It was great playing for all those organizations. It's it kind of helps later when you're into coaching and stuff, because you see what works and what doesn't work sometimes. So
right. Now you retire, but you don't really retire because you're coaching. How did you get involved in coaching to start with? And then we'll talk about where you're going with it now.
So much the same. Like in St. Catharines, like you have all these guys that kind of grew up playing, and they, were giving back to the game. So my dad was helping coach the junior A team in the summer for years. So as I was playing, I'd come back and I'd get on the floor and, kind of help out where I could. And then kind of just progressed. And then, I ended up having two daughters, but then they played minor lacrosse. So I coached some minor, up, and then continued helping out the junior kind of program. Here, a year here, a year there. So, yeah, that's kind of how I got involved. And yeah, always giving back, trying to grow this game because it's a great game.
And you had the same theory I did when I was teaching music, is you learn it better because you have to learn how to explain it to others that it makes sense.
Yeah, and really I probably have a better understanding of the game now than I ever did when I was playing. Yeah, I wish I would have, been more of a student of the game, and I remember some guys you played with, like Kurt Malowski was one that really stuck out. He was always like learning, and I think that's why you're seeing him do so well now with coaching.
Sure.
Although yeah, it might be a little bit of an off year for them, but they're gonna get that ship straightened out in Vancouver for sure.
Oh, I have no doubt. And the more he has his hand on that program, is the more you're going to see the Malowski touch onto that program.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, you're coaching your daughters. You as a box player, not much of a field guy really, and now of course you're coaching girls field. How was the difference in some of the rules and some of the other things, and the exuberance of the female game? How did that all work for you?
It was unbelievable because I really came in pretty blind, and although St. Catharines has done a really good job of growing the game on the boys and men's side, the girls' game there was nothing and it was kind of sad to see. So I threw my hat in the ring there, and I remember they have a thing where they after they score a goal, the girl drops the stick and the ref checks the pocket. They've since stopped that now, but I remember the first time it happened, I kind of got upset because I thought the girl was celebrating the goal a little too exuberantly, dropping the stick, right? So
right.
I really didn't have hardly any knowledge, but lacrosse is lacrosse, and you just kind of, I think the first thing you do is you gather a group of athletes and then teach them the game, and it's just all basics, And, I was lucky enough to kind of, I was coached by my dad and then some other really good coaches on the way up, and just put a good group of kids together and then teach them the game. So now the girls' game in St. Catharines, I think we have teams in all different age groups, and we have girls playing box lacrosse through 3 to 4 different age groups as well. So it's really growing on that side. And I think with the lacrosse coming into the Olympics, you're going to see the growth just take off, right?
Right. Now, your one daughter has actually done quite a bit. She was part of Team Ontario that won the under 14 girls box championship in Langley. That's a pretty incredible achievement.
Yeah, and then this past summer they won it out in Saskatchewan again. So yeah, they're doing real good. And my little one, she was on Team O this year too. So I coached that team, and yeah, it's just a blast to see them play, and you know, it's such a good game, and it kind of took me to a lot of different places, and you know, really enriched life. And you know, they're probably both going to have decent shots at getting scholarships down to the U.S. My oldest is in her recruiting year this year.
Mm-hmm.
So, the opportunities abound for girls playing lacrosse, and I always tell everybody that'll listen, if you want a chance to get a scholarship in the U.S., like lacrosse is probably one of the best bets, because you know, it's all over the U.S. now, and there's programs being added all the time. So exciting times for the game.
Absolutely, and as a woman, with the game the way it's exploding now onto the scene, both field and box, this is a great time. So timing is everything.
Yeah, and you're seeing much like in the men's game, it's evolving. In the U.S. game, like there's programs like Northwestern, the Florida Gators, all these really, you know, high-end programs, and you're seeing the influence of box lacrosse come into their, you know, tight area, tight space,
Mm-hmm.
and, a lot of two-man game stuff, and so there's this hybrid kind of thing going on, and like Northwestern was, you know, won it all last year, and I think they're ranked first this year, and that's going to translate over, obviously, to the sixes game too, which is incredible, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, lots of opportunities, and yeah, it's going to be fun to watch where this game goes.
Now I got to talk about the Hall of Fame, and I know you play this down a lot, but you are now an NLL Hall of Famer. Only 37 people in the hall altogether, so that's an elite crowd. So you can't play it down with me, man. You are definitely deserving of being in that hall. Talk about when they called you to say you're going in with the class of 2021.
Yeah, and you know, I might argue with you, but I guess just total shock when they called me. Mike French called me, he is from kind of the area close to where I'm from, back home, and he did great things in Philadelphia, and he called me up and kind of broke the news, and yeah, I was really shocked, but honored, and you know, it was nice that they're kind of recognizing D guys a little bit, and defensive and transition guys, rather than just the guys that kind of pour the goals into the net. So yeah, it was pretty special for sure, and yeah, it was a great night, and got to see kind of a lot of those guys. Yeah, and I didn't realize there was only 37 people, so that's pretty cool.
It's quite an achievement, and the class that you went in was just a who's who of lacrosse. So to be with that group again just adds to my argument that you really are deserving of being in there. I was lucky enough to watch your career throughout, and I really do believe that this is a spot for you. So congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. And I think the big part, like where I got lucky, was I played with all these great teams, and I think somewhere along the way somebody told me, I remember who it was, but they said, hey, you're not that guy, and you don't have to be that guy. Like, do what
Right.
you do, and do it well. And I think that message, above all others, that kind of was spoken to me, really was the best advice I ever gotten.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and I use it a lot with the kids now when I'm coaching. Like, just find your role, find out where you fit, do it really well, and then work on getting better at the other stuff. And
Right.
if you can do that, then, you know, and just keep working hard and always showing up, then you're going to do great no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, being a character player, and you know, you were You were that guy. You would set picks. You would assist. You'd score when they needed you. You would also police. Pardon the pun.
Mm-hmm.
When you had to. Um, I think about the line brawl here in Toronto. I really don't want to put you through that one again. Um, but whenever it came time when the chips are down, you were in there. So it was never worrying about do I, don't I. It was guns a blazing. So that was the kind of player you were. And it's great to see that the NLL recognized these kind of players now.
Yeah, and I think part of the players who are in, you get a vote as well. So I'll be voting for a lot of hardworking defensive guys as well, right? So
All right.
sure, and it's nice to see, and they always say defense wins championships, and you gotta have two sides pulling on everything, or otherwise you're not winning. You can have the best offense in the league, but you gotta have a good defense, and probably now, like especially a good goalie. Like you're seeing some teams that maybe they should be doing better, but like you gotta have a goalie that stops the ball at the end of the night.
Absolutely. Now we only got a couple of minutes left, and I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the Olympics and lacrosse sixes. And what's your thought on all of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's amazing. I think it's gonna allow other countries to compete faster. I know there's the traditionalists that say field lacrosse, but like 9 players on a field or 11, kind of depending what format you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
And no shot clock or a longer shot clock. It's just not going to sell the game. Like a team holding onto a ball for 20 minutes because they have to kill out the game because they're up by 2. Like that's not what people want to see. And there's going to be a lot of goals, and the countries that don't really have an established program are going to be able to find 10 good athletes and get started pretty quickly. So I'm really excited to see it. Anytime that you can put it on the world stage, it's just great. And I'm going to be watching every game. So
absolutely. I always figured this, and for the traditionalists, we don't have 100 people on a field, and we're not shooting at things in trees either. So, we if we want to talk about tradition, but even for the idea, let's get 280 more countries to view the game, and then we can teach them traditions. Yeah,
100%. And it's just to get the game off and to get building. And there's people that say, well, the goalies aren't going to be like saves. They should have 5-foot nets, or they should have, and they're just doing it because the equipment already exists. And there's going to be some growing pains, but at the end of the day, it gets us there and grows the game. That's what everybody who's involved with the game should be concerned about right now, right?
Perfection requires trial and error.
That's right. And it's good. It's action packed, and like I think anybody who goes and watch it is going to enjoy it.
Yeah, and the smaller field will make a difference because unfortunately, I like box lacrosse, so I have a bit of a bias. So the bigger the field, the less contact there is. The less contact there is, the less fun there is, I think, for the fan, and I think even the players like the contact.
100%. And then the other positive thing we kind of talked about early in the program, your two-way players. Your two-way players are going to be the guys and girls that are going to get picked. So hopefully, you're coming from a well-rounded background. You can run up and down the field, and you're not just an offensive, defensive guy. So
absolutely.
I can't wait. Yeah,
it's going to be a lot of fun.
It is.
Pat, I want to thank you. You're on vacation, and you took the time to talk to us on a Friday evening. I love it, man. Anytime we can talk lacrosse is a great day. So thank you so much for taking your time with us.
Yeah, we're actually down in Irvine, California right now. The girls are down here for a tournament, and Shaden Santos with USA Boxla is hosting the tournament.
Nice.
And you're seeing the growth across the U.S. now of all the box programs, and it's going to be really exciting to see. And you've seen some great players already come through that are now in the NLL, like like Hannah there. Yeah, so it's really exciting times in the growth of the game. Yeah, I hope to kind of when I'm done my work now that I can get involved with, growing the game and be involved coaching more. So.
Absolutely. So thank you again.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thanks, guys, very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Very much our pleasure. So for Gary Groob and Pat McCready, I'm Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching NLL Lacrosse Talk, seen live Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, unless we decide to do the show at a special time for a special guest. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Lacrosse Talk news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, please check out spanglishworld.ca. Spanglish World, watch it, hear, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time.